this is one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about, and it is of finding and identifying your purpose. So I guess first things first, I am a faith-based person. So I'm a woman of faith. I believe in Jesus, the Bible. I teach using biblical principles. So that's what we're going to get from here tonight, okay? All right, so bear with me. So tonight, I wanted to talk about 3 ways to identify your purpose, because I feel like we talk a lot about purpose, but I don't know if anybody has really said, well, hey, this is how you find it, or that's not it, or what do you do when you don't know what it is? So I am so excited to be able to kind of help you, get your thoughts together around it, wrap your mind around it, and then embrace who you really are. Because it's key. We accept people for who they are. We have a bunch of movements that say acceptance. We should have just this great acceptance, and we should accept people for who they are, no matter, what views they have, no matter what they look like. And I think that's great. Love is definitely instrumental. But one of the things that I think we don't do well enough is accept ourselves. So I can accept my neighbor who maybe has different religious views, or I can accept my classmate who has different sexuality views, but I don't accept me. So tonight, I really want to walk in the more acceptance of you, embracing who you really are, loving who you really are, and not just loving and identifying it, but really operating in it. And that is the important part. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Hi, Tamika. How are you? Hey, Julia. Hi. I'm so glad you could join. So I hope you guys have fun, and listen, pay close attention, because I'm going to be asking questions and it's going to require some participation. So stick with me. All right. So one of the things I like to do when we talk about purpose is I like to identify it. And it's because this is one of the main things that it's widely used. There's a lot of interpretations, but I feel like the dictionary is key. I think that, they definitely are the expert on giving great definitions. So let's talk about it. Dictionary.com says that purpose is the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. So I'm going to give it to you again, and I'm going to give you the 3 points. The reason for which, 1, something is done, 2, for which something is created, or 3, the reason for which something exists. So it means that purpose is not just this thing that we find on a rainy Monday when we're meditating before we go to work. It's not the thing that you identify with while you're walking on the beach and it's a great summer day. This is the ultimate reason why you are in the earth. And I think if we take that as seriously as it is, then we will kind of really talk about an increased self-love and self-awareness, because it's the reason why you were born. Catch that. It's the reason why you exist. Hey, Trace, it's the reason why people need you. It's the reason, there's something for you to do that is so great, that is so astronomical, that it was imperative that you be in the earth. That's your purpose. And so I know that it seems, and sometimes can seem really vast, oh my God, it could be mind-blowing. But the truth is, it's so important to your DNA. And how about your purpose runs through your DNA? So everything that you touch can be traced back to, oh my God, my purpose was all over that. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So that's the definition. It's big, right? The reason for which something is done, the reason for which you were created, or the reason for which something exists. So that's big. And while that is settling in, that you had this big, gigantic purpose before you were even born, that you stepped into the shoes of and were given stewardship over, think about that, wrap your mind around that, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about why it's important. One of the most, impressionable quotes that I could ever share with you tonight is from Miles Monroe. And he said, when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And I started thinking about different things like around my house. Like, for instance, sometimes when you don't have a pot holder readily available, you'll use a dishcloth. And I'm going to talk about myself because I can cook, but there are sometimes I have mishaps in the kitchen. Okay. So one time I couldn't find my pot holder. I think it was just that it wasn't like in close proximity, but my dishcloth was. And I used the dishcloth to get something off of the stove, and the burner was hot. And while I had the dishcloth around the handles, I burned the dishcloth. Kind of set it on fire. Truth of the matter is that was abuse to the dishcloth because it did not exist to be a pot holder. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about, what have you been doing, saying, executing that really is not what you were called to do. It's not what you were purposed to do. It's not where you were created to do. Like, have you been performing as, someone else, but you were really called to be like a speaker, but you've been performing like an admin? Were you called to be a consultant, but you're okay with being a file person, like a clerk? Were you called to be a judge, but you're okay with being a paralegal? See, those are the things that I want you to really embrace. I want you to embrace the greatness of who you are, because you were born to be this great human being. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being a file clerk, an administrative assistant, because I was one, a paralegal, because I know some great ones. Nothing wrong with it. But there is something wrong with it if you were born to be a judge and you settled to be the paralegal because you were afraid. So I want you to really grasp the fact and think about some of the things that you do. Like, have you ever used a butter knife to unscrew something because you couldn't find a screwdriver? And I'm probably going way old school. You probably have no clue as to what I'm talking about. But have you ever done that? Like, my mom moved last weekend before, and I went to her house to help her, and me and my aunt were trying to take something apart so we could move some of her things around and kind of situate things differently, and we couldn't find what we needed. But my mom called and said, hey, get the ratchet from the old house and bring it to the new house. But what we didn't have was one of those little turn things that you get from IKEA when you put their furniture together. She needed one of those. So what we had to do was take a piece of the ratchet, no, I don't know what it is. Something. We had to take a piece of a mechanical device and unscrew it manually because we didn't have the proper tool. So I want you to think about that. Every time you choose not to operate in your purpose, you are causing someone else to be abused and put into a place by which they have no purpose there. So you are being kind of misaligned. We're talking about like, get aligned, level up, but are you leveling up in your purpose? Like, we had to use this small little device to unscrew something manually when what we really needed was here at my house, and my aunt had one, but because we didn't bring it, we didn't think to bring it, we had to do some other things. So people are kind of using other things. They're misusing people. They're abusing people's gifts, skills, and talents because you're not in place when you don't identify your purpose. So think about that. Every day you say, no purpose, I want no parts of you, even though you're already in me. No, you're telling somebody else it's okay for you to be abused. It's okay for you to be misused. It's okay for people to use you, and you're not operating at maximum ability because I don't want to be in my spot, whether it's because of rejection, whether it's because of fear, or whether it's because of laziness. Let's be honest. Like, we blame a lot of stuff on fear, but the truth is some of us are really just lazy. And so think about it. What's stopping you from operating in your full purpose. And I mean full play out. Like, I'm not a jock. You see all this face, see all these cheeks and stuff. I'm not a jock, but my brother and my sister are. And I remember going to a few games, and I mean a few as in like 1, 2, 3, maybe. I'm not really into sports, but I remember that my dad would be on the sidelines, basically being the assistant coach, and he was really just the basketball dad. And he would start yelling at the players, full court press, meaning get on the dudes, don't let them score. If you let them score, I'm going to pull you up by your collar when the game is over. I'm sorry, just is what it is. So I want to know how many of you, and hit me with a 1 in the comment section, how many of you are not in a full court press right now? It's May. We're almost in the middle of the year. Are you in a full court press with your purpose? I mean, is it no holds barred? Is it nothing's going to stop me? Is it there are no obstacles that can keep me from getting to where I need to be? Like I was watching Real Housewives the other night. Do you remember when Candy's mom told Todd, if you watch Real Housewives, when Candy's mom told Todd, ain't no ocean deep enough, ain't no mount high enough to keep me. Do you remember when she said that to him? Do you feel like that about your purpose? Like, do you feel that way about your purpose? Do you feel like there is absolutely nothing that could stop you? Like, do you feel this unction that there's more for you and you're just not sure how to tap into it? And are you willing to pay the cost to operate in it? Because it has to be tested. It has to be like tried and true. This is how serious it is. If purpose was placed in you way before you were even born, before your mom and dad ever got together, do you know that there's a value on your head? There's a bounty on your head, like to keep you from using it so that people will never get to be free from what it is you're called to liberate them from. There is a bounty on your head for your purpose. And so it is so time for you to be serious about it. It's time for you to be just like a non-negotiable. Like back in the day, like I used to hang with people from New York and used to be like, yo, they gully. Like, are you really that serious about, are you a G about your purpose? Like, I totally forgot that I knew that term, but are you a G about your purpose? And so, Michelle, you said 1. Yeah, exactly. Like, are we really on a full court press for purpose? So, Michelle, thanks for hitting us up with that 1 and letting us know that you mean business when it comes to your purpose. So I'm excited about that. Thanks, Trace. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Okay, so this is the other thing that we talk about. And listen, you're probably, I hope that you don't get mad at me when I say this, but I mean, we could still be friends afterwards, okay? I promise. Friend request me. I'll send you cute messages in your inbox just to make up for what I'm about to say. But I want you to kind of hang with me on this, okay? All right, listen. There's a difference between potential and purpose. I know you've seen all the Pinterest posts, the cute little sayings, and people are saying, yes, unlimited potential. And that's true. But there is a distinct difference between potential and purpose. Let me tell you why. And you listen, I'm dictionary.coming all night tonight. Dictionary.com says that there's 2 that I'm going to go through. The first one is potential is having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. Okay, so if you're not operating in true purpose right now, what you're playing with is potential, because you are having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. When in the future? I don't know, but in the future. Okay, so that's the first one. Number 2, latent qualities or abilities that may be developed and lead to future success or usefulness. Can I just tell you what that means? I think one of the things that really offended me the most, one of the things that really made me angry about that definition was latent qualities. That means it's inactive. That means you're not using it. That means it's hidden under a bunch of crap. That means it's probably in the junk pile ready to go to the nearest Goodwill. That means you've probably put it on consignment at the thrift shop because you didn't think you needed it anymore and you tried to replace it with something else. It's latent. That means at some point, you may not even acknowledge that you even have it. It's latent. That means it's buried so deep that you're like, what is this? You know when it's time to go and wash your clothes, right? And you're like separating colors from whites. You're doing good laundry, right? And you're pulling us up and you're like, when did I wear this? That's exactly what it is. That's what potential is. It's like, what am I doing with this? It's like, hey, Jamila, it's like, where did this come from? Because they are latent qualities. Can we just talk about how purpose is right now? And potential is in the future. Did you notice that in both of those definitions for potential, it kept saying for something in the future, for future success or usefulness? Can we talk about how purpose said it is the reason for which something is done, past tense, created, past tense, or for which something exists, current tense? Can we break that down a bit? That means that it was already figured out. It was already placed in you. There's already a strategy in mind for you. So purpose is right now. The best thing about purpose is that you just have to figure out how to harness it with your superpower. And yes, I did say superpower. Potential means you haven't even acted like you have it. Like, who's doing this out here? So I want you to think about the difference. So the next time somebody tells you, oh my God, you have all this potential, say, no, baby. Sis, I got purpose. And this is the reason why it's so important that you understand the difference between purpose and potential. It's because I could probably number the tombstones of the people in the graveyard who died with potential, never tapped into their purpose. So my question to you is, are you ready to fulfill purpose and leave out of the prison of potential? See, potential will keep saying, tomorrow I can do it. Tomorrow I can make it happen. Hey, Kim. Oh my God, you spell your name like mine. Hey, girl. Hey, like that's what potential says that. Potential says later for that. Like I can do that when I get older. I can do that when I have time. I can do that when the kids are older. I can do that when I get out of school. I can do that after I decide I don't want to be in my 9-to-5 anymore. I can do that when I retire. But purpose says it wakes me up in the morning. It keeps me up at night. Do I sleep? Yes, I sleep, and I sleep well. And I dream about how I can affect the world with my purpose. Purpose says people will not die because I won't pursue purpose. Passion is the flame. It's the fire under your purpose. But it is not something you can live on because passion will die down with the wind. You ever seen a good fire die down with the wind, especially bonfires? Like I remember me and my friends tried to do a bonfire and the wind kept blowing real deep and the fire kept burning out. It was like, no, we're not doing this. So you know where we ended up? We ended up at my condo, at the fireplace, making s'mores, and me doing a hot chocolate bar because there was not enough fire. Do not misinterpret your purpose for passion. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it because it will die. The minute you decide your passion is more important, which is something you like to do, it's something you enjoy doing, but purpose, oh my God, you will hit obstacles. People will talk about you. People will put you on a platform that you know not of. You will fight for purpose, but it's because you're fighting for your freedom. But it's so enjoyable. It is the very essence of who you are. And it becomes to a point where when you speak, everything is so intentional. It's so purposeful. It's powerful because it's ingrained in you. And people can't help but stop to look and stare. They have to be in your meeting. They have to be in your workshop. They have to be around you because your energy is over the moon. It's not even chartable. It can't be measured. Why? Because you're in purpose. And that's where you'll find your leadership and people responding to you. And you'll see that there will be people that'll flock to you and not to use you. I don't want you to be afraid of everyone, but you have to know who the people are that you're called to affect. Your purpose is not just for you. Please hear me clearly. That's selfishness. That's a bastardized purpose. And you are not a bastard. Do you understand? Like, hear me when I say, you cannot function in that capacity where you bastardize your purpose and think it's just good enough for me to make money on. That's not how we live. You have to live so that you realize you are called to affect a whole demographic of people that are waiting for you. You actually abuse your purpose when you don't show up in a full court press. That's how that happens. And so you have to be very conscientious, because when you do that, you're saying my purpose is all about me. It's about how I feel. It's about the fact that I don't feel like showing up today. And you will have moments where you don't feel like showing up. But the question is, who's waiting on you? Who needs that one bullet point that you have to teach from in order to survive that week? Who needs that one 30-minute strategy session because they're about to throw away their whole business? Who needs that one course from you that turns around their whole life? Purpose is that important. It is a legacy building thing. It is a wealth generation movement. That's why it is so invaluable to me to give my all to teaching women how to identify their purpose, because they're building legacy. You build something where it can be traced back to you throughout generations. Who doesn't want that? And I'll tell you why. It is so amazing. When I think about my grandmother, very instrumental to what I'm doing right now, very instrumental to me being the purpose catalyst, very instrumental to me being a minister, very instrumental to me being a woman of faith, just very instrumental to my life as a whole. But because of my grandmother, I taught my daughter faith. Because of my grandmother, my daughter taught her son faith. So my question to you is, how many generations will be affected by what you teach one woman, by what you teach one man? Do you see how that right? My grandmother taught my mother faith, and I was able to see them operate in it. So that is one, my grandmother, my mom, me, my daughter, and that's 5 generations of people that stem from one teaching. So what is the one thing? 5, just 5. Yeah, really, trace it. How many generations of people will you affect with your purpose? And everybody, and can we talk about this too? Now, I know we haven't talked about the identification part first, but I need to get you to understand that there are so many people that can teach you how to identify your purpose. There are so many people that can be your life coach. There are so many people that can teach you monetization. There are so many people that can teach you revenue generation. But listen, nobody will ever do it like me. So when you start working in your purpose, I don't want you to be scared, fearful, have reservations about the number of people that do it. I want you to be clear on the fact that no one will ever do it the way you do it. It doesn't matter if they agree, as long as the people that you're called to affect agree. As long as you realize that this world needs me, oh my God, you keep working in your dopeness. You keep working in your Black girl magic. You keep working in what you're called to do, because the people that are called to you need you exactly the way you are. Do not shrink back. Do not become fearful. Don't even try to fit in. You don't have to fit in, because who you are will resonate with who you're called to lead. You don't have to fit in. You don't have to have a seat at every table. You just need to be you. You need to operate in your specific, unique point, which I want to talk about. So listen, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, if you don't know your purpose, can you hit me with a 2 if you're unclear of your purpose? Hit me with a 2. Tracy, you're headed back into class. Oh my God, I'm so happy you were able to join us on your break. Let me know how you feel about the replay. So if you don't know how to operate in your purpose, you don't know what it is, hit me with a number 2. Hit me with a number 2. So it looks like all of you all were really clear on how to identify. But just in case you're nervous to put in the number 2, let's talk about it. I am going to share with you how I figured out what my purpose was. Or should I say when I said yes to it? Because I said no more times than not, because I didn't want to do it. So for the longest time, some of the things that plagued my life were bad relationships, not relating well to other women. Horrible, 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 horrible. I mean, I didn't trust them, and I didn't really have, like, I had a horrible situation one time, and it just kind of scarred me, for life. And I was like, yeah, I don't get down with chicks, can't stand them. No, I coach women. You see what I'm saying? So that was one of the things. It was just so weird. It was like my skin would itch if I had to be in a whole group of women. It made me feel so uncomfortable. It irritated me. And for a long time, I couldn't quite understand why. And it was because I saw some things that I didn't like. I saw some things that it just did not make sense to me. And I didn't want to be bothered. So we'll find that our irritations are really what we're called to relieve. So women. And then I was okay with playing it safe. I have always been that girl who says, hey, I can make money doing this because I have a gift or a skill or a talent. But when it came to purpose, I knew that I could help people clarify things for their lives. It was the weirdest thing. And I would just ask questions. Have you ever thought about X, Y, and Z? And all of a sudden they would have this aha moment, and it was like, oh, I never thought about that. So this is one of the things I want you to think through. What are some of the recurring themes of your life? What are some of the repetitive cycles that irritate you the most, that kind of makes your skin crawl? What are some of, can you drop them in the comment section if you have some of, those things? Like, I hate, oh my God, I could not stand when people were unclear about what they were going to do with their lives. When I tell you it would give me a migraine, like it was a migraine trigger. It would give me a headache. Like, what are you going to do with your life? I don't know. I'm not sure. Oh my God, it was so sickening. I couldn't take it. Oh, Dallas, that's good. Inconsistency. Sounds like a systems person to me. Inconsistency. They're on one day, they're off the next. Sound like someone who's put systems into place, which we know you do. So I think you're on board. You're working in your purpose full-fledged. The other thing is, I want you to write down some of your pain points. Last year, I had my first live event as a soft launch for Purpose Catalyst. And it was interesting because I had a young lady say, all my life, I have struggled with female relationships, and I've been abused, and when she started talking, she overcame all of it. And I was like, have you ever thought about the fact that maybe you're called to help these people heal through these situations. When I tell you that the woman literally broke down, I mean, she's been through some very traumatic things, but sometimes you need to find that your niche is, I've been through this because someone else needs to know that they can get out of it. Krishana says, lack of ambition. Ooh, that's good. So is that something that you've identified that really irks your soul? It irks mine too, girl. I understand it all too well. So that's one of the things that I deal with when I help women is what keeps you? What keeps you from stopping? Like, what keeps you stopping and starting? You know, you're all up high on Monday. By Tuesday, you're like, I quit. By Wednesday, you're like, I think I can make it again. Thursday, you're like, nah, I'm good. Friday, you're on the unemployment line. Saturday, you look for a part-time job. Then Sunday, you're like, well, I think I'm going to give it another go. Right, Krishana? So I think those are things you need to identify as how can you help women or men get over inconsistency issues. Is it a matter of, they lack motivation? Is it a matter of them not knowing what they're really called to do? So therefore they kind of stutter in this moment of, I think I should, but I'm not sure I can. So you need to help them find out what that moment is and help them relieve that pain. So that is how I figured out what my purpose was. And then I started writing it down. And when things occurred, I started jotting down. And a lot of times when fear takes over, we start to think, oh my God, what if they don't like me as a person? Versus, what if they're not resonating with my brand? So I want you to be confident in who you are as a person, because that's what matters. Be confident in your purpose. Be confident in what you bring to the table. Be confident in how you deliver it. Be confident in the channel of communication in which you bring it. And then when it's time, you'll be able to walk people through other steps of how they too can become confident in what they're called to do. So one of the other things I want you to think about is if you are already on par, you know what your purpose is. One of the things that helped me, because it was difficult for me to be my own personal brand, never had done that before. I was okay with being behind a company because no one needed to see me. No one needed to know what I bring to the table. No one needed to see any of that. What I realized was I was shortchanging myself, because even behind a company, you still had to talk to me. So if you know what your purpose is, what I want you to do in the comment section is give us your name and say what you do. So for instance, mine is, hey, I'm Kymberly, and I liberate women from the prison of potential and help them walk into the freedom of purpose. So if that's you and you know what your purpose is, hit us in the comments with what your name is and who you're called to help and how you help them. Krishana said, oh boy, mic drop on that one. It's a lot of steps in making sure purpose works. I mean, trust me, you will fight to be you. And it's a very interesting concept, because who has to fight to be themselves? But I promise you, it is worth every ounce, every moment, every second that you spend operating in purpose is so worth it. It is so worth it. The lives you impact, the sphere of people that you get to meet, and the influence that you build, not to, be hard on people, but to know that people trust you with their lives. It's unfathomable, but it's also the best fulfilling thing ever.